The CCCR, or Centre for Creative and Cultural Research, investigates the ancient, innovative relationship between social culture and creative production. Based in the Faculty of Arts and Design at the University of Canberra, we generate scholarship and artwork in a wide array of humanities, social science, applied and creative disciplines. You are listening to a fresh presentation from the CCCR's Culture and Creativity Seminar Series. The presentation was delivered with slides. To view those slides, or to learn more about the Centre's work, please follow the links in the program notes. This podcast was recorded on the unceded lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples.
Hi, my name's Paul McGee. I'm the Director of the Centre for Creative and Cultural Research here in the Faculty of Arts and Design at the University of Canberra. I want to start by acknowledging that we are on the unceded lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. And today it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Wendy Somerville. Wendy is a Jurinja woman employed as the inaugural First Nations Research Fellow with the Centre for Creative and Cultural Research. Wendy graduated with a degree in Heritage Management, then undertook her honours and PhD here at UC. She teaches through the Indigenous Studies minor and is also the curator of the FAD Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Arts and Artefact Teaching Collection, which she uses in her teaching. She researches with a group of First Nations and non-First Nations women from UC, Edith Cowan University and the University of Wollongong. And Wendy will be talking today about the First Nations Collaborative Research Web, which is a pillar within the Centre for Creative and Cultural Research, which she inaugurated along with Lisa Fuller, Ashley van der Hervel, Andreas Stapp-Gaunt and Delphine Fraser back last year. And already by the end of the year, the web was the recipient of the Outstanding Achievement in Research or Enterprise Award at UC's 2024 Research Excellence Awards. So we're going to hear about something very special today. Please join me.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, all of you, for coming. So I too want to acknowledge Ngunnawal and Ngambri country and people. This country is home to many institutions of learning and teaching, and First Nations people's learning is entangled with country and knowledge, and the knowledge we hold comes from research on and with country. I'll talk more about that later maybe, but for now I acknowledge the elders, the people who never became elders, Ngunnawal and Ngambri ancestors, and people of future Ngunnawal and Ngambri country. Before I talk about the web, I will introduce the members we have here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about these people. First, we have Dr. Lisa Fuller. Lisa is a writer, and she is the first Māori, or I should say First Nations person to be, what is it you are? Literary agent. She's an editor, and her book is coming out. I would have loved to have shown you. She's got it here. So this is the book that follows on her award-winning first book. She's had a children's book out. What I want to say about Lisa is she is so busy. She is incredibly busy. She does so much work, and she's still writing, working on all of various editing and doing other works as well. So that's Lisa, and Yeah, that's her story as a creative writer. And Ashley is also an incredibly busy woman. This is Ashley, and she is currently working to get her PhD gone. She is researching, her research currently was through the aviation project, and next year she'll be working on the nuclear heritage. Although it's this year already, sorry. Welcome to 2025. Who knew? Exactly. And next we have Dell, who's currently doing her honours. She's an Ngunnawal woman, and she has her master's from ANU, but came back here to do her honours to enable a little bit of a pathway into doing her PhD. Yes. And Andy, the wonderful Andy, my cousin Andy. A little bit of something before I get into that. All of us teach in the Indigenous minor. That's our meeting point, really. We've always known each other, but that was we chose ourselves to do this because of our work in the Indigenous minor. So Andy is a teacher with 20 years experience. She was in the Creative Encounters project, and it is her hope to provide pathways for Indigenous and Pacifica, all Indigenous, but whatever, First Nations children and Pacifica children to come to university. And we really need that in the web. So I think that's all I was going to say. But I found this interesting paper by Andrews, Maisel and Padgham about the Melbourne POSH PhD familiarisation program. Now, I don't know if you know about POSH, but POSH are the people who donate money towards Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander health research, and different universities, I think there's 5 universities that they give money to, not us. There's 5 different research centres that research in different ways. So there was a project and it was called, the PhD familiarisation program. It's just a little idea of something we should be bringing into UC. So the Melbourne Centre operates with 2 overarching strategic goals. 1, to build Indigenous health leadership, and 2, to create academic pathways. I'm banging on, but it deserves to be banged on about. As part of the latter, the Centre undertakes a number of initiatives to facilitate Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's participation in doctoral research and to support their I know this is strange, their access, participation, retention and completion, including pre-enrolment and postdoctoral planning. And I think that's something that we will be thinking about and talking about as we grow the centre. So initially I'll be taking the lead in the web, although it is a collaboration. It's my intention to apply for a grant, for instance, to enable the operation and group to grow and become part of the future here at UC. I imagine that the leadership will change as people come and go through the university. Obviously, it will be very, I don't know, what is that? It will be, we'll all elect who will be the next person rather than me just standing. I'm the leader. Funding, allocated by the university to keep the web going is my goal. So I'm going to give a little history, and hell, it's all about me, and provide a short rationale for collaborative research and what we hope to achieve with the web into the future. This project is a work in progress. It's all organic. So when I became, as Paul said, the inaugural First Nations graduate research fellow with the CCR, I attended a meeting and impressed on the members present that the importance of collaborative research with First Nations people and country, and that grabbed the imagination of Valerie Mackenzie. People might remember Valerie, wonderful, wonderful woman. She was then a CCCR research fellow. She started asking questions and throwing ideas around, and yay, we got up a research collaboration and published a paper titled Kind Regards, Negotiating Connection to Country and Place Through Collective Storying. That collective was made up of 4 First Nations and 3 non-First Nations female academics from UC and, as Paul said, Edith Cowan in WA, where Vari now teaches. It just happened to be women who were working together. We're now currently working on a second project for which we received internal seed funding. The project is titled Collaborating Across Country and Cultures, Yarning, Walking and Weaving the Changing Riparian and Waterscapes. For this project, we increased our researchers by 1. So Crystal is from the University of Wollongong, and I hope to sort of build, things with universities all the time. I forgot to talk about some of the research things that people are involved in. So when I say the web is involved in those papers, the first one was Ashley, Lisa and I, and of course Bethany, but we're not allowed to mention Bethany. Ashley has done a project with Dell, that is the amazing scar tree. If you haven't seen it, find it. And of course I mentioned your creative encounters. Yes. So, sorry, I just realised that I was jumping ahead of myself here. So back to me. When I started my PhD, we didn't have anyone who could supervise us. Paul, Wayne, Aboriginal people, no supervisors. But then Peter Adol came on board as the PVCI. I didn't, I already had chosen my supervisors by then, so we're all off. But one of the things that he did was he introduced Tess and I, Tess being the other doctoral candidate around at the time, new, and he introduced us to Nirakan, which is the National Indigenous Research and Knowledges Network. So there we attended conferences, seminars and workshops, and importantly met a few academics and lots of PhD candidates from around Australia, and I mean that, around Australia. At the time, there was a focus on teaching PhD students about applying appropriate Indigenous methodological frameworks to our projects. So, and additionally, I took a course at Melbourne University on research and leadership, where once again, I met many other First Nations HDR candidates. research was being done in an array of areas, with the common denominator being the imperative to provide First Nations knowledges into those subjects. And here I want to say, let me see. So Crystal was doing criminology. There were loads of people who were doing psychology. Psychology is really something that Aboriginal people seem to do a lot. They used to do it at the Ngunnawal Centre, you know. I think up to a third of the people when I was there were doing psychology. And law. Law was another one. But, you know, I'm still in contact with the screenwriter, that criminologist. Oh, and Megan was already a medical doctor, and her PhD was on triage, ways of triage in the emergency area. So all I'm saying is here, what I'm trying to say is that this array, why do we have this idea going around that Aboriginal people can only talk about Aboriginal things, like being in the desert or something? So we have, you know, a range of interests, as do non-First Nations people. So what is Web? What do we hope to provide? So I'm just, because I'm at home on leave, I just copy and pasted everywhere. On our web, we state that First Nations Collaborative Research Web, which when we get around to having a meeting, we hope to change the name. So now I'm telling you about this, but we do hope to change the name. So it provides a platform for creatives and researchers to collaborate and centre Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspectives in the Academy. The research web operates at the cultural interface and engages in cross-cultural collaboration to provide an intersectional space to share stories, skills and creative practice. Drawing on the diverse skill set of CCCR members, the research web theme produces cultural expressions such as short stories, poetry, multimedia writing, essays, artworks, digital objects, podcasts and more. These expressions are generative, leading to the production of high-impact, quality traditional and non-traditional research outputs. The key aim of the research and the projects engaged in is to build and grow the research in a way that does centre First Nations knowledge, people and practices. Recruiting other First Nations researchers to conduct research is also important to the web. And story, as you'll probably know, is at the heart of most First Nations Australian cultures. It's our own system of education, reflecting the fact that everything is connected, interwoven, with varied permission controls. The First Nations Research Web caters to culturally appropriate engagement in this area. So that's really all we have on our page, and I remind you that this is a work in progress. So how will the web work in my head? When we were thinking about it, thinking about this idea of a web, and I was thinking of a web of, you know, because it's nice and easy, for instance, the round web you see with the nice radii. But I think in my head, this is more of an entanglement of things. You know, in First Nations culture, knowledges are not siloed. they're connected, and they're connected in many different ways. And so that's what I was doing here. I was trying to show a different way of connectedness that isn't built on that purely Western structures, is what I'm hoping to say. I want to be able to put a lot of First Nations knowledge into it, and that sort of entanglement of that knowledge is more resonant with these sorts of webs than the usual orb web or whatever. So I've looked at other collaborations. I quite like the CLEAR Lab developed by Métis Professor Max Lebrun. That's me pretending to know how to speak French. CLEAR stands for Civic Laboratory for Environmental Action Research. And it's an interdisciplinary natural and social science lab dedicated to good land relations, led by Max Lebrun at Memorial University in Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada. So it is equal parts research space, methods incubator, and social collective. CLEAR's way of doing things, from environmental monitoring of plastic pollution to how meetings are run, are based on values of humility, accountability, and anti-colonial research relations. For the purpose of building principles and protocols, I envision the First Nations collaborative web declarative statement, something like the core members of our collective are First Nations researchers from different disciplines who work alone and in collaboration with each other and other researchers in other institutions. Anti-colonial objectives are implicit in the research we undertake. Our work draws on country and is built on respect, kindness, relationality, and collectivity in our project. So a slight, change there. And these values are evident in the way we approach our work with each other and our allies. So relationality as a method, I just have to tell you, as a research method, this is another thing that's festering, I'm thinking about, has been used by various First Nations scholars, and Hughes and Barlow consider that country teaches us, and Karen Martin writes with her country and has done long before it became popular. So this is just a small indication of where we are heading. As you heard, the web received a research award, and as soon as we get time to have an actual discussion, we will work on the practicalities of the web. Having said that, people here are in the room. Writing Us Mob, we received a teaching award, and guess how much money we spent? Because we never had the time, that much. This time we're going to spend the whole 2,500, even if it means we have a big lunch. So up for discussion, things like how we run meetings, for starters, how we would put people's names in our any articles, books, whatever we wrote. Who is going first? who has done the majority of the work, recognising who is doing that work. And we have to decide, our first non-First Nations people we research with considered associates, allies. What are people called? And what value do we give to their voices? It's really tricky thinking through these things. Though we are always aware of the inclination to reinscribe colonialist thought because of the imperatives of the academy, we must be sure that our values and knowledge are the most important in this space. This gives rise to the question, how do we decide if a person or project fits the web? So you see what I'm talking about, it's rather organic. We have lots to consider. So ethics, of course, will be a major part of our research values, and these need to be spelled out. We'll take our cues here from other First Nations, people like Professor Mary Graham, the First Nations academics, not the whole nation. So we've also got, I've talked about teaching and Andy, and I am also looking at the Indigenous Education and Research Centre Indigenous Research Support Network, how that's run at JCU. So Professor Nakata is there, as well as Dr. Sana Nakata, who writes about education as well. But that research network, support network, is a community of leading and emerging research scholars working with Indigenous topics. They're brought together by their common interest in navigating and challenging dimensions of research that benefits Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander people and communities. So at the heart of the IRSN is a shared commitment to grow the capacity of all researchers and research students to undertake cutting-edge research with social impact for Indigenous communities, both in Australia and internationally. We can say that too because we've got Andy. And sorry, I did not say Andy, of course, is a Maori woman. So they provide leadership in high-quality Indigenous research and offer a range of workshops and events. Those workshops, they invite scholars from within and beyond JCU to share their own work in JCU conversations and seminars. And I think that's a great thing that we should be thinking about, maybe engaging with those. So I think some of the stuff that I've been reading out can be applied to the web, although it will change shape to accommodate us as we grow and how we grow. And I've been talking mainly about research, but it is our hope that we can get a physical space that we can invite undergraduate and HDR students to come to drop into. Ashley has great ideas about engaging with the whole university, maybe having craft days and yarning days, and so more of those things can, I hope, will be able to be run under the auspices of the web. And by now, Paul, you've realised this is bigger than Ben-Hur. So, yeah, when I started uni, my niece told her mother to go to university and take Auntie Wendy with you. And this was pretty much, I recall Tracy saying not so long ago, talking about how many First Nations students were in her class, and she said, oh, and there was this one, and I had the other one. I said, oh, my sister. And was she your sister? And this is the thing at the Ngunnawal Centre in those days. We had lots of sisters going. We had Mark, his son, and his sister. So there were a lot, and we had cousins. And so there were a lot of people who came to university and came with built-in support. One person I recall I was at university with. So people from the same town would come to the university. We had two the year I started, two from around near, this is typical of me, I forget as I'm going. So we had two lots of people come from country towns together. So we also had, as I was about to say, one student was the first in her family and also the eldest. She was 18, she had a 17-year-old sister and a 16-year-old sister, and at every opportunity they would come and stay in her room over at Ascot House, and but she left after getting HDs in her 4 subjects that semester because she couldn't stand to be away from home. That has happened so often. We had a student who had appendicitis, and but she was from the country. What do we do? There's nothing in place. So I invited, when she got out of hospital, to come to my place. And that's the sort of thing we were depending a lot on each other. And it was much more of a community than you'd expect, or that, I don't know. I don't want to keep saying it and banging on, but it's changed. The Ngunnawal Centre has changed so much. So I think it is usual now to include communities in research, but there are problematics, and there are probably better ways of working with community. And I just pointed out a community. And I think we here, our research web and others, are part of a community. I think too often communities are expected to want to engage with research. You know, back in the 80s, there was that T-shirt, an Aboriginal family, 2 children, parents, and a white person. That was their anthropologist. So it's starting, I think, not to, really, to question this idea of it has to be done with a community. There are so many burdens. Can you imagine what Ngunnawal and Ngambri people, how often they're approached to join in research? As I said, this country is just full of educational institutions. So I don't know. I think that remains problematic. How to use communities in research is something that we really have to look at again. So again, a work in progress. So I want to leave you with a thought though, and the thought is that what I learned through Nirakan and the University of Melbourne courses was valuable, and whilst it is important work, we have so many people doing, new work through methodological frameworks, that it all seems a bit passé. the range of frameworks that are encountered in books and articles reveals that embedding the work of First Nations perspectives has been quite successful. The work now is to cement the concepts, those concepts of relatedness and country as First Nations philosophy. And I hope that the work we'll be able to do will be part of doing just that. So, thank you for coming and listening to my entangle.
Thanks so much, Wendy. I'm now going to open the floor for comments or questions. Please, any comments or questions?
Yeah. Dr. Collis.
Professor. Doctors. Wendy, what changes have you noticed with the students at Ngunnawal Centre through this research?
We haven't actually had any students. Is that what you said? What have I know? We actually haven't had any students through yet. That's because I think this is my first outing with this. I knew it had to be put out there at the beginning of the year, but we're going to obviously be advertising where we can, specifically the Ngunnawal Centre. And, well, this is it, really, but that has to be thought about as well.
Thank you, Wendy. Wonderful to see the web put out there. I was hoping to hear a little bit more about the teaching research nexus that I know is very important to you in this web, and noting that a lot of the things that you were talking about were obviously about the research components
Yes.
of the participants within the web, but also those models from elsewhere.
Yes.
So yes, just interested in hearing about those.
Okay.
The
So
teaching
this is
research.
something that we've always thought that, and I have certainly taken it into my research, into my teaching. I teach through my research. I teach specifically in some of the classes. It's about archives and my visits to the archive. In my research, what the archives looked like. And so that scar tree thing that I was talking about, and we all want to teach our research, not only ours, but of course the research of other First Nations people in our teaching, but that wonderful project of Ashley and Dell's The Scar Tree, that will be taught over and over and over again in different ways, obviously, in one of our units, maybe even two at times, who knows. But yeah, so there is for us, the research has a teaching component as well.
This might be a question that's a bit like you're probably well on the way to this, but as someone who doesn't teach in your core units, at what point do you want people who don't teach in this to be like, hey, do you know about this? Is it from first year that we start telling people that this is a thing and that this is where you find it?
Oh, great question, Natalie. Tell them tomorrow. And keep telling them. You know, I do a little thing where I tell my students, you know, you can do an honours here. And I start early, and often I tell my students that. So yes, Natalie, tomorrow. Anything that gets the word out there is great, I think.
Wendy, could you speak a little bit more about something you just mentioned briefly, the idea of an actual space?
Yes.
Yeah, can you talk a bit more about
Somewhere-
her aspirations there?
Aspirations, a room with a board and desks and someplace we can put books. And hello, my dear. I have a room.
I'll pass that to you.
No. Thank you, Zora. I will take your room. Wait there, what is it? How big is
Okay.
it? It's not building 16C.
No. Hello everyone. I'm Zora from the collections. So I've recently moved my role from campus estate to the library, and I've got a new task of looking after the Muragadi gallery space that has no program and nothing. And it's a very unusual space to be called a gallery because it's like mostly glass walls, and part of it is facing the normal garden, and it's got a few white walls. But I actually think it's a great space to kind of use as an experiment space for some of the activities you might be thinking about, and it will be like I think a great kind of space to challenge what people expect from gallery and museums in the kind of westernized discipline, or like the theory of it, and making it a much more engaging and collaborative, fun space instead of a thing on the wall that we're all looking at and not feeling connected with. So that's the space. And
Well,
yes.
Congratulations on your space, but I want my own.
Well, you can.
But it's to be a space for a permanent space.
Yeah. And it's if you want to do any experimentation of like
presenting
it for the getting that future permanent space, I think it's like,
Thank you.
always open for you to
Thank
come in
you.
and play
The
with.
lovely Zora.
I'd say, just on space before we leave it, a whole bunch of us are leaving. Our offices are going to be vacant. Mine is a big office. It's the old head of school office, and I intend to move out of there into a box somewhere. So maybe
I've got the space there. Thank you, Jen.
So it's Ashley speaking. Of course. No. I actually just wanted to kind of make a point. So you've kind of talked about being a self-appointed leader in a way, but I am a student, like a PhD student. I came into uni to study with Tracy on Heritage of the Air, and meeting this group of people created a community of connectedness, but also a space where I could mix myself and who I am with my academic life, which has been something that is quite tricky to do. You don't know where is the place for this and that, because you separate things out as a researcher in this kind of institution. But for me, you're not a self-appointed leader, or because you've actually created a space for all of us to connect and work through and become ourselves, and hopefully much better teachers and researchers. So this project is really exciting, and I hope actually to be your first student that comes out of it, because I'll hand in my PhD and we can put a little note on the website. So, I offer myself up as that. Maybe.
Definitely.
But yeah, it's just, it's something that we did come together because we all work in teaching in Indigenous Studies major and kind of started working together and connecting. So it is a community, and you are a leader, and just hearing your talk then, I just felt so inspired to continue on showing up, and even though some offices will be vacant and whatnot in this space, so it's a huge impact, and there's so much potential in this project to bring and kind of connect and make First Nations voices, perspectives and values kind of heard in this institution. And, I think there's going to be some amazing things that come out of it.
Thank you, Ashley. One of the things I did forget to say, and it is an important thing, is that all that entanglement, that there is a teasing out of, because of the projects. You know, we might want to do projects, or people might want to do, looking at my friends and saying LGBTQI plus, things that I know Sandy O'Sullivan is doing some amazing work in the queer space and anti-colonial work. And I read the title of a book that's just come out, and it's that's my university life. I read a title of a book, or the first 20 pages, don't get me wrong. And it's anti-colonialism in a queer Asian perspective. And so the thing is, we are not we're not saying we'll only talk to people about this, this or this. If people present us with a really interesting idea, we can, we'll fit it into one of our nodes, which we might just make up as we go along. So, yeah, sorry, that was just something I forgot to say, that there are not only for us as researchers, but for any other researcher who wants to work with us. We have a space. We just haven't called it anything yet.
Hi. What I was kind of curious about is, with the emphasis on the research side of things and the production of it, I was wondering, in terms of connecting that more broadly to the university, is that something that this space might be, interested in? Is that sort of a direction?
In what way? Because it is with the teaching. With the teaching, I was thinking it was broadly connected with the university, or actually vitally connected with the university.
Oh, yeah. I suppose I meant more like, because, so if you're talking about, creating works that are, highlighting intersections and highlighting perspectives around that connectedness, I mean, that's a pretty core thing. Well, I don't need to tell you, that's a pretty core thing. So I guess I'm talking more about, like, when with students who are, looking at work across whatever range of degrees in whatever way they're studying. Sorry, words. And I guess I'm curious about whether there was considerations with connecting across the university to encourage those works to be...
So sort of more like transdisciplinary work. So
yeah,
through...
to get the word out kind of thing.
Okay.
And indigenising the research culture, is that...
Yeah, yes, yeah.
You use that word. Ashley's about to run and jump over the seats and... yeah. Yeah. So it always has an Indigenous or First Nations or Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander perspective, and working through and with those perspectives with researchers, other researchers. That's what you're saying, isn't it, Paul? Yes. I'm not sure exactly what it is you want me to say.
That's, I guess
You are welcome when we...
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are you thinking of putting the word out about us, or is that part of it?
I guess I'm thinking, like, as a student, I was exposed to a lot of work through, like reading lists, things like that.
Yes.
Right? If there was a way to get these new findings kind of incorporated throughout the university so that...
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, certainly. We have publications that can be spread throughout the university that are currently just being taught in our units.
There's a new big project at Sydney University that's supposed to have something like 71 PhD, identified Indigenous PhD positions. Does anyone know what it's called? It's something like CAIF. I didn't clarify what that stood for. And
What is it?
CAIF, I think it was, so Centre for Australian Indigenous something, I don't know.
Yeah. But
I
isn't
looked
that
it up.
amazing?
I tried to Google it and I couldn't find it, so...
I did too. That's
Yeah.
where my problem was. But I will talk about it.
Yeah.
Even though we haven't identified or corroborated. Oh, my head is full of collaboration.
I was thinking I must talk to you about whether my project can form part of your web too, because it's working with Indigenous people up north, but
Yes.
expanding that web.
Yes, yes. But yeah, so you heard Alison, 71 odd First Nations Indigenous students. But guess what? Guess what the pay will be? How many Indigenous PhD students will we have when those 5 universities or whoever it is are in the mix, are paying their students, giving them a stipend of $80,000? 80. What do we give here? 35. And and you can, you're thinking of doing another PhD. I know. And so imagine that, other universities, QUT, Macquarie, and no doubt Sydney, already give $50,000. And we're dancing around with our 35,000 here. And of course, the big universities have got kudos, their names, just their names. Thank you.